Faye was no longer in a hurry after discovering this. He slowed down his flying speed and carefully observed the surroundings. He even landed on the 12 mountains and inspected them. The more he looked around, the happier he was. Faye felt like these 12 mountains were placed here by the gods specifically for his upcoming plans. Although these mountains were in a row, they weren't in a straight line, and they weren't blocking each other's view of the area. In addition, each of the mountains soared into the sky. Standing at their peaks, one would be able to see the Chambord city that wasn't too far away. Especially for masters in the moon-class realm, they would be able to see things happening tens of kilometers away, and they could for sure inspect the activities that were happening inside Chambord. Out of all 12 mountains, even the one that was the furthest from Chambord was only less than 10 kilometers away. This distance was nothing in the eyes of a moon-class elite. He or she could instantly dash into the city in a few seconds. Ha ha ha! I will create the statues of the 12 zodiac constellations here. There will be 12 guardian palaces of the Golden Saints on these 12 Golden Saint Mountains, and they would be surrounding the Sky Castle and protecting Chambord. Ha ha ha! This is a perfect opportunity. I will build this place into a saint land on the continent. Ha ha ha! Faye laughed proudly as he thought of that. Right now, Faye already appointed saints for the following constellations: Taurus, Cancer, Leo, Capricorn, and Sagittarius. However, the others were still missing. Also, out of the Gold Saints, only Leo St. Lampard reached the realm of Moon class. All others were around the 8-star level. According to Faye's plan, all official Golden Saints had to be on the Moon class realm before they were qualified to get on these 12 Golden Saint Mountains and become the real Guardian Saints. However, this plan couldn't be completed in a few days. It was a long-term project. Faye fantasied about the day when Chambord had more than a dozen Moon-class elites as he fluttered his silver sword energy wings and disappeared into the darkness. The dining hall inside the king's palace. Hey, Alexander, you are going to become someone's husband. How can you come home this late at night? Angela had been worrying about you for the entire night. This is too much. Emma placed her hands around her waist as she pouted and questioned the king. It was clear that this lowly was very hungry. As she complained, she quickly took out the food that was placed in the magic boxes to keep them warm. Then, she put the utensils onto the table and called over the 4 maids, Spring, Summer, Autumn, and Winter, who were about to fall asleep. Then, the 7 people and little raccoon started to have dinner. Humph! If you aren't going to be back tonight, we will all starve. You can't do this anymore. Angela is dropping the standards. She treats you too well. As she placed a piece of golden crispy pork into her mouth, Emma wrinkled her nose, and the few freckles at the top of her nose looked extremely cute under the light from the magic chandelier in the dining hall. This lowly, who was vicious with her words but genuinely kind and nice on the inside, was now taken in by Faye as his little sister, and she was a little princess who was loved by the people around her. Although she seemed a little mean on the surface, she was a sensible and understanding girl. The fact that she didn't leave Faye and Angela when they were in a bad situation won her the appreciation of other members of Chambord. All right, you forgot about our 12 rules for the dining table. We shouldn't talk too much when we are eating. Faye pretended to be annoyed as he said. In the meantime, he grabbed onto the neck of little raccoon that jumped onto the dining table sneakily and tried to help its stomach on its own. The king placed it in front of its dining spot, stared at it despite it felt like it was mistreated, and turned to Emma, saying, Emma, if you complain this much, I'm afraid that you will become too chubby, and no man would want you. None of your business. The handsome young men of Chambord who want to marry me can line up from the entrance of the king's palace to the bank of the Zuli River. Emma straightened her back and said proudly, after living with Faye for a while, she learned a thing or two from him, such as bluffing. Anyway, you breached the first rule of the 12 rules. You shouldn't be late. Hee. As a punishment, you need to tell us stories after dinner. All the girls around the table laughed. From the nervousness at the beginning to merging into the big family, the 4 maids were now not scared of the king anymore. Instead, they talked and joked with Faye regularly. As a result, chatter and laughter sounded in the palace all the time. This was Faye's favorite atmosphere. If he had to behave like other kings where they sat in front of giant dining tables and eat more than 100 dishes with only 2 to 3 people, it would be torturous. If he had to keep that up for a long time, he might get esophageal cancer for not eating correctly. After enjoying the time together for a little, Angela placed her knife and fork on the table and smiled at Faye. Alexander, I need to talk to you about something. Thug, Chick, and Hooligan are growing larger and larger. The gardens in the king's palace couldn't contain them anymore. In these few days, they had made a lot of trouble under the lead of Blackie. If they aren't your pets, the soldiers who are mad at them might shoot them down with Dragon Slayer crossbows and eat them. Faye laughed after hearing that. He had heard a lot of complaints from other people as well. Although they had only been at Chambord City for a few days, these 4 creatures were too playful and energetic. In addition, their sizes were huge, and they would create mini earthquakes when they moved around. A few days ago, Thug accidentally sat on a side building in the king's palace and destroyed it, and a few pathways and a small church in the city were obliterated by the 4 beasts unintentionally. Also, one of the dragons pooped in the sky, and its feces fell and instantly enveloped a few pedestrians who weren't fast enough to move out of the way. If it weren't for people who covered their noses and dragged these people out, these people might be the first few who died inside dragon feces. In the end, Chambord's city management office had to send out a big team of bylaw enforcement officers to clean up the street. However, the feces of a dragon had research and strategic value, and they were bought by the Civil and Military University and a few laboratories. We need to deal with that. Faye rested his chin on a pair of chopsticks tip as he laughed. Thug and the others are too big to be kept inside the city. It would be too much for the residents to deal with. Also, the king's palace in the city might be too small for them to live in. I discovered a perfect location in the mountains behind Chambord. Haha, in a few days not only them but we will also move over. The royal family will out of the Chambord city. What Faye said instantly surprised the girls. Move out of Chambord? Where are we going? Let me be clear. I don't want to live in a straw house by the cliff like that person named Dugu Chobai in your stories. Dugu Chobai is one of the greatest hermits in Jin Yong's classic Wuxia novels. At this moment, a loud voice sounded outside the door. Fallen Princess Victoria catwalked into the building in a tight-fit red Cheongsam mini dress and high heels. As she threw a big pile of files onto the table in front of Faye, she sat down and stuffed a piece of meat into her mouth. In the meantime, she said unclearly, I'm still young like a fresh rose. I have a bright future, and I don't want to live like an ascetic monk. Suddenly, the dining hall got quiet. Victoria looked up and said after she saw the strange expressions on people's faces, What? You guys are eating at midnight and none of you told me. Alexander, in order to straighten out your account books for your treasury and the revenue department, I haven't slept for 2 days. I now even have bags under my eyes. Why can't I eat a piece of your meat? You, Emma stuttered as she looked at Victoria. What about me? Victoria finally felt like something was off. Suddenly, she felt like someone was pulling on her sleeve. She turned around and saw the king's new pet, Little Raccoon, pulling her sleeve with a sad expression. You ate the piece of meat that Little Raccoon was biting, Emma said slowly as if she was trying to hold back something. Victoria slowly looked at the people in the hall, and they all nodded. Then, she looked at the furry mouth of Little Raccoon and the clear small bite marks on another piece of meat in her hand. Puff! She spat out. Disgusting. After Victoria spat out, her pretty face paled. She kicked off her high heels and ran out barefooted. As she dashed out, she shouted, Water! Give me some water. I need to rinse my mouth. Water! She turned around and looked back at Faye after taking 2 steps, saying, Those documents are the account books that I reorganized. Your revenue and treasury recordings at Chambord were a mess. I created a new system. Take a look. If you are happy with it, then stamp it and pass it. Yuck! After that, this fallen princess, who was usually lazy and greedy, ran out with her bare white feet to find water to rinse her mouth. Ha 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 ha! Everyone in the dining hall laughed out loud, and Little Raccoon went to pick up the big piece of roasted meat Victoria dropped. It was feasting on it and having such a great time that its black and white striped tail even stood up. It was late into the night after dinner. Head Minister Bast already sent a carriage to the gate of the king's palace, and it was here to bring Angela back home. There was a ton of stuff for them to arrange before the wedding. The king's father-in-law lost his wife when he was mid-aged, and his daughter was his only family. After experiencing the toughest time, his life finally turned around. Therefore, he paid a lot of attention to his daughter's wedding, and he was doing a lot of preparations according to noble traditions. After Angela waited for Faye and had dinner, she went back to her father's place with Emma and the 4 maids. As common traditions on the continent, Angela could only come back and live with the king after the wedding was completed. Soon after Angela and the girls were gone, Faye called in Torres and gave him some tasks. Then, he went back to his bedroom with little Raccoon who had a full belly. After eating, this little guy rolled up into a ball and fell asleep on a chair. Faye, on the other hand, summoned the Throne of Chaos. As it hovered a meter above the air, he sat on it and started to practice the training techniques documented on the mysterious purple scroll. As his strength increased and his view broadened, Faye felt like the spirit energy was getting more and more important. Therefore, he had been trying to improve it daily. A lot of people only saw the king's rocket-like growth and his dominating presence, but only a few people knew that he only slept about 1 to 2 hours a night. During other times, he was cultivating and practicing. Even though he had the Diablo world, his work ethic still surpassed most of the geniuses in this world. Practicing while sitting on the Throne of Chaos was one of the shortcuts Faye recently discovered. This mysterious throne not only granted Faye the ability to travel through space, it could also help him concentrate and increase the efficiency when he trained his spirit energy. Unfortunately, Faye couldn't obtain warrior energy or magic energy, so he wasn't sure if this throne could boost up the speed of all cultivation. The night was quiet, and it was a bit chilly. Faye slowly opened his eyes after 3 hours. My spirit energy finally surpassed level 800. Now, I can stay in Diablo world for 8 hours a day, and the NPCs from Rogue Encampment could also stay in the real world for 8 hours. This way, the reconstruction and the renovation of Chambord could speed up even more. Faye spread out his spirit energy quietly. After reaching level 800, he could easily scan an area of 2 kilometers around him, almost half of Chambord. Like the most advanced radar, he could clearly sense the energy surges on all the people within his scan zone, and nothing could hide from him. One day I will reach level 6000, and I would be able to come and go from Diablo world without having to worry about the time constraint. In the same time, people like Elena, Kane, and Akira would be able to stay in the real world as long as they want as well. After pulling back his spirit energy, Faye was delighted with his progress. Buzz! A sky-blue portal appeared in front of him, and he walked in after putting the Throne of Chaos back into his body. Diablo world. Durance of hate. Ha ha ha. Stupid humans. Are you here to sacrifice your delicious blood and flesh? Ha ha. I couldn't wait. Go. Kill them. Lord of Pain Mephisto's roar resonated in the area, shaking the walls and the ground of this space. Under its command, numerous powerful monsters with weapons and armors rushed toward Faye and Elena fearlessly. In the last few days, Faye sped up his quest-completing speed. After completing all quests in the second map, Lutgolian, he came to the third map, Karas Docks, and finished quests such as the Golden Bird, Blade of the Old Religion, Kalim's Will, Lam Ezen's Tome, and the Blackened Temple. He earned rewards such as a bottle of potion that could permanently increase his HP by 40, and a book called Lam Essence Tome that recorded all the weaknesses of the monsters from hell. Now, Faye was a Nightmare Mode level 70 Barbarian, and Elena a level 60 Magic Archer. However, Elena's real offensive ability was about 20 levels lower since she shared a lot of the skill points and attribute points with her second Paladin bloodline. The Valkyrie was a lot more well-rounded since her defensive ability increased by a lot. Faye and Elena were facing the Lord of Pain, Mephisto, who was the boss on this map. As long as they killed it, the third map would be completed. Faye wasn't holding back anything. With Immortal King's Stone Crusher in his hands and Immortal King's Soul Cage on his body, he unleashed all his strength and attacked forward. Every time he struck out, there seemed to be fire elements around his hammer. Now, with 2 items in the Immortal King set with him, the additional fire damage that came with his hammer took away the lives of the demons, and their corrosive blood stained the land. Whoosh! 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 With the Grand Matron bow in her hand, Elena was enveloped by a silver energy flame. As the bowstring vibrated, arrows dashed toward the demons as if they were invitations from the Grim Reaper. This pair of couples who weren't married yet coordinate smoothly, and it felt like they were the messengers of death. However, there were way too many monsters charging at them. It felt like these monsters were waves in an ocean. Among these monsters, there were mage types where they stood far away and threw high-damaging spells such ice arrows, poisonous smoke, and burning fire. All these various spells enveloped Faye and Elena. Soon, the 2 of them were in a tough situation. This was the nightmare mode after all, and it was challenging. Also, the Lord of Pain, Mephisto, was observing from the sideline and frequently threw in range attacks. It was very sly. From the battles with the monsters in the nightmare mode after some time, Faye slowly discovered one thing. The monsters all had their own minds and the intelligence of kids. Especially the bosses at the end of each map. They had basic battle awareness and didn't attack based on scripts anymore. Compared with bosses in the normal mode, they were much harder to deal with. This battle took Faye and Elena more than 3 hours. As he saw Mephisto crying and dying in a pool of its own blood, Faye let go of the breath that he was holding in. His hand that was holding Immortal King's Stone Crusher felt a little sour, and he felt a little tired. There were more than a dozen deep wounds on his body, and both him and Elena were covered in blood. They weren't sure if most of the blood was from them or the monsters. At the same time, bright lights flashed on the magic items on the ground. Faye looked around at the items that Mephisto dropped, and he was slightly disappointed. Lord of Pain, Mephisto, was one of the most powerful demons in hell, but it didn't give Faye any good items after it was killed. Almost all of them were orange level 6 items, and the green level 7 set items that Faye was hoping for didn't appear. Could it be that all my luck was depleted from getting Immortal King's Stone Crusher last time? The king thought. Since none of the items interested Faye, he didn't even use identify scrolls on them. He threw them into his storage space causally and planned to sell them to the NPCs for gold coins. At this moment, a golden light beam shot down from the sky. The golden liquid in Faye's body reached a limit, and the barbarian character leveled up again. After reaching level 71, the golden energy cleansed Faye's body and made him feel very comfortable. All the injuries that he got from battling with the monsters recovered, and all the blood stains on his clothes were removed as well. Faye was back to his prime. After distributing the attribute points and the skill points according to his plan, Faye and Elena left this place quickly. Then, they found a pond outside the Durance of Hate. With Faye guarding her, Elena took off her armors boldly in front of her lover and washed the blood off her body. Faye had more than a dozen injuries on his body from that battle, but those were all because he tried to protect Elena. Since the Valkyrie specialized in long-range attacks and weren't experienced in close-range combat, she could be in great danger if monsters got near her. Therefore, Faye gave it all and made sure no monsters got close. In the end, Elena wasn't injured at all, and blood on her body were all from the demons. Faye tightly guarded the pond. As he listened to the splashing water noises and looked at the Valkyrie's white smooth body, he felt intrigued. Although he had done it once before with Elena, it was for saving her life, and Faye fell unconscious as well. Therefore, Elena's perfect body was still extremely luring in Faye's eyes. In order to distract himself, Faye glanced around. Suddenly, his eyes locked onto something that wasn't far away. Stamina Shrine. These so-called shrines were the ancient ruins on the continent. They were in shapes such as stone statues, pillars, and wooden statues, and they contained great power due to the runes and magic arrays engraved on them. When standing near them, one was able to be empowered by the unique energy inside them. For example, the shrine in front of Faye was a cylinder-shaped stone pillar that was about 5 meters tall. A few mystic magic runes that were drawn onto the body of the pillar with red, god blood-like paint, and they emitted a faint, indescribable power. Didn't matter how tired a person was, as long as they stood within 10 meters of this pillar, he or she would feel energetic in an instant. Their fatigue would be gone, and their stamina would be restored. Before Faye got through the third map, even though he tried to study those magic runes, he couldn't understand them. But now, for some reason, Faye suddenly felt like those magic runes that were difficult and complicated seemed extremely simple and clear in his eyes. It made Faye feel like a girl who ignored him for a long time despite his pursuit suddenly jumped into his bed when he least expected it. The stone pillar completely attracted Faye's attention. Even though the Valkyrie washed up, dressed up, and stood behind him, the king didn't even notice it. The morning sun slowly rose into the sky, and the silver Chambord city looked like a layer of gold covered it under the sunshine. Suddenly, a blue portal appeared in the bedroom inside the king's palace, and Faye walked out of it. The portal instantly disappeared behind him once he was out. Squeak! 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 Little Raccoon instantly dashed over from the window and jumped onto Faye's shoulder. As it licked Faye's cheek with its pink, soft tongue, it blinked its eyes. This little guy liked sticking with Faye, and the king felt like it was blaming him for leaving it out here all by itself. Faye laughed and rubbed Little Raccoon's head to comfort it. "Your Majesty, everything is planned just as you ordered." Tora's voice came from outside the room. Great. Time for us to go." Faye nodded. The two of them left the king's palace, and they went to the largest plaza in the center of Chambord under the protection of 6 Saint Seiya's. This place was the biggest plaza in Chambord since forever. When Faye just got onto this continent, he got angry and killed the deputy cavalier captain of the Royal Canonization Legion, CMAC, as well as the 14 cavaliers who came with him after they tried to get their ways with Angela. This was also the place where Torres stood out of the crowd despite the danger and almost got killed. Due to his bravery, he was given the position as the king's guard by Faye. After renovation, this plaza got even bigger and cleaner. It was almost enough for close to 30,000 citizens of Chambord to gather here. This place was given a strange named by the king, Tiananmen Square, and it was the designated area where Chambord would host national celebrations, speeches, and various events. When Faye arrived, there were already bylaw enforcement officers guarding the area tightly. Around the plaza, for temporary Grand Water Elemental Defensive Array formations were set up by the students from the Civil and Military University, and these array formations could block most of the sharp energies that would be appearing here soon. At the moment, more than 300 officials of the kingdom, more than 50 Saint Seiya's, 2,000 bylaw enforcement officers, and more than 1,000 students from the Civil and Military University stood in rows on the 4 sides of the plaza. With excited expressions on their faces, they looked at the great figure standing in the middle of the empty area that was about 1 square kilometer. He was the former #1 warrior of Chambord, Frank Lampard. A few days ago, Lampard already broke through peak 9-star and became a level 1 low-tier New Moon elite. However, since the troop was traveling, and he didn't have enough accumulation, Lampard suppressed his aura and didn't try to go through Nature's challenge. Since Nature didn't accept his identity as a Moon-class elite yet, he couldn't see the natural laws, didn't get his physical body transformed, and wasn't able to fly. Therefore, Lampard chose today to take the challenge, transform his body, and step into the real Moon-class realm. Nature's challenge was a dangerous process, and a lot of talented warriors and mages failed this process and died. Therefore, choosing the right time to do the challenge was crucial. Of course, the king was an exception. When Faye was undergoing this process, he turned the position of nature and himself around. He suppressed the natural elements with his pure physical strength, and that shocked many masters who were hiding at Dual Flag City at the time. Lampard cultivated lighting elemental warrior energy. Although the morning sun wasn't the most heated, it contained the most energy. At this moment, the elements in the air were the most abundant and purest, especially fire elements and lightning elements. Therefore, this time of the day was perfect for fire elemental and lightning elemental warriors and mages to pass Nature's challenge. "Uncle Lampard," Faye said as he walked up to check on Lampard's condition. He relaxed a lot after seeing Lampard, but he still asked, "How are you feeling? Are you confident?" "This is not a problem." Lampard looked at the sun in the sky and replied. The golden sunlight was shining brightly on him, and he looked like a god in a set of golden armor. That is good. I have a gift for you. It should be enough for you to deal with all kinds of situations in the upcoming challenge. Fei said as he took out a huge black sword from his storage space. He was still a little worried. Then he stabbed the sword into the ground. With a significant portion of the sword in the ground, the sword was still taller than an average person, and its width was comparable to a door. Also, it had an aura and a unique energy that only masters could sense. This sword was much better than Lampard's current black sword. Lampard's eyes lit up. He asked with a surprised expression, "Such spiritual power. Combat weapon? Level 5? No, more. Level 6. Fei smiled and lowered his voice as he got close to Lampard. Level 8. Level 8. Lampard was stunned. This was the first time that he acted this way in front of Fei. However, this reaction was reasonable since anyone would be shocked by that. Level 8 combat weapons were only one level away from semi-god tier combat weapons, and they were used as strategic weapons. Alexander. He took out such an important item this easily. Damn, this is shocking, he thought. This giant black sword was one of the best weapons that Fei got from the last ancestral place. It was the highest level combat weapon, and Fei felt like it was probably a level 9 semi-god tier combat weapon or even a level 10 god tier combat weapon when that devastating war took place, and it fell in level after it wasn't properly cared for. Perhaps if blacksmith Charcy could get better with her forging skills, she could come up with ways to restore this black sword's former glory. Ha ha ha. Great. Thank you for the precious gift, Your Majesty. When Lampard gripped the hilt of this giant black sword, streaks of lightning cracked and danced on the surface of the blade. Soon, the black sword was enveloped by a faint silver energy, and the force hidden in there even shocked Fei a little. Great sword! Lampard lightly knocked the body of the sword with his finger, and a crisp metal-ringing noise resonated in the area. From now on, your name is Black Lightning, Lampard said. Then, he stabbed this giant black sword into the ground and took off the black sword that he always carried on his back. With a solemn expression, he lightly caressed this sword as if he was saying goodbye to someone, to something. Old friend, you have accompanied me for so long. You can get a good rest now. After a moment of silence, he murmured and put this sword into his storage space. Let's go. Fei summoned the Throne of Chaos and floated to the side of the plaza. At this moment, all kinds of natural elements flowed toward this plaza as if there was a powerful tornado here. Thick clouds instantly covered the sky that was bright and cloudless a few moments ago, and it felt like a pair of invisible hands were stirring the weather and trying to break this space. Lampard stopped suppressing his power. The natural elements sensed the aura of a new moon-class elite, and nature's challenge began, trying to see if this master was worthy enough. At this moment, all the officials, Saint Seiya's, bylaw enforcement officers, and university students stared at Lampard with admiration. As their eyes locked onto him, they felt an indescribable sense of proudness and achievement. This man was the most trusted friend of the old king, and he was the protector of the new king and the guardian of Chambord. Now, he was finally becoming a moon-class elite after the great King Alexander. It made all the Chambordians proud. From now on, Chambord finally had a moon-class elite under the king's command. Which other affiliated kingdoms could be compared to us? This level of strength and power. Even our parent empire, Zenit, probably doesn't even have that many moon-class elites. The citizens thought. Dashes of lighting were flashing in the thick clouds. It felt like a god was looking down from heaven and judging all the creatures on this land. The pressure in this area was getting more and more intense, and the natural elements accumulated to a breaking point. The people around the plaza felt like they were on a mini-boat in a tsunami. They felt tiny compared to the energy in the sky. Crackling. White dashes of lightning were also crackling around Lampard. Soon, his entire body was enveloped by a sea of lightning, making him look like a god himself. The intense lightning energy around him wasn't inferior to the masses of lightning flashing in the clouds. Boom! A lightning bolt that was thicker than a tree suddenly crashed down from the clouds and struck at Lampard as if a god was angry, and it was so fast that human eyes had a hard time capturing it. This scene was so shocking that the people in the area all gasped in unison. Ha ha ha! Great! Come again! Lampard's loud and thrilling laughter sounded within that immense mass of lighting. Such a heroic and boss-like presence. It made many soldiers and warriors of Chambord's blood boil. Boom! 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 The first lightning bolt was the prologue of this nature's challenge. After it struck down, many lightning bolts fell from the sky like the raindrops in a massive storm, and it felt like nature wanted to destroy the Chambord castle. Since Lampard practiced lightning elemental warrior energy, nature's challenge to him was primarily lightning strikes. Faye sat on the throne of chaos and watched this entire process closely. Gradually, a strange expression appeared on his face. Ha! Uncle Lampard is… It doesn't seem like this is his first time experiencing nature's challenge. He is really calm and collected. These lightning bolts are visually shocking and are also more intense than our anticipation. However, they didn't harm his body. Instead, Uncle Lampard is directing them into his body and transforming his physique rapidly and smoothly. There was always a layer of mystery around Lampard, and Faye couldn't see through it. Lampard initially practiced water elemental warrior energy, and he was only a 3-star warrior. After he switched to lightning elemental warrior energy, his progress increased rapidly, far beyond Faye's expectations. Compared to him, other warriors of Chambord such as Torres and Pierce were way behind him. For the last while, Lampard's strength had been increasing without any barriers, and he reached Moon class smoothly. Today, the excellent techniques Lampard demonstrated in this nature's challenge somehow reminded Faye of when Hazelbank was advancing back into Sun class. He felt like Lampard had experienced all of this before, and he was going back to his former realm after dropping in strength for some reason. The clouds in the sky were getting thicker and thicker, and more lightning bolts were being brewed. What is going on? The special envoy from the Imperial Military Headquarters of Zenit, Barkov, walked out of the palace of the most luxurious hotel in Chambord City. As he looked up at the sky and saw the phenomenon, he sensed an indescribable pressure. His long black hair stuck to his cheeks, and his chubby body light shivered. He rarely showed his emotion on his face, but he was now shocked. This? How is this possible? A muscular warrior suddenly gasped beside Barkov. He was wearing a set armor of Arshavin's Iron Blood Legion, and he looked like he was of high status. As his face turned pale, he said in a shaky voice, "This phenomenon, could it be that a master is elevating to the realm of Moon class? This looks like nature's challenge." Moon class. Barkov was stunned. He felt like he couldn't process this information. Although he was more like an advisor and didn't know much about cultivation, he knew what Moon class meant. In the Zenit Empire, Moon class elites were strategic-level weapons. There were only a few of them, and their statuses were prestige. How could a person be advancing into the Moon class realm in this little affiliated kingdom? Barkov was shocked. Could it be the king of Chambord? Yeah, it must be him. It is heard that he broke through 7-star half a year ago. With his insane talent, he must be a peak 9-star warrior already. Now from the look of it, Crown Prince His Highness. If the King of Chambord is now a Moon-class elite, he won't be that easy to deal with. Even though Arshavin His Majesty is the head military commander and the person who is going to inherit the throne, he will have a hard time dealing with the King of Chambord if the latter is now a Moon-class elite. He thought, send someone to go and investigate this. We need to figure out all the facts as soon as possible. We need to know who exactly is advancing into Moon class, and I need to report this back to Crown Prince His Highness immediately. As you wish, sir. A soldier quickly left the palace. As Barkov stood still in front of the palace and stared at the dense lightning bolts and thick clouds, he sighed with a concerned expression on his face. Barkov was a little noble whose family went broke in St. Petersburg, and even the people in the ghettos in the capital once looked down at him. Later, he met Arshavin, and the crown prince instantly liked him. A lot of outsiders contributed it to his flattering skills, and they thought that he was like a lapdog to the crown prince. He was vicious and was able to destroy anyone with his schemes, and people thought he was going to be taken out by the crown prince once he was no longer useful. However, these ordinary folks would never know that the real reason why Arshavin liked him was that of his strong natural senses to danger and his talent in finding the best solution in a messy and noisy situation. Without great abilities, a flatterer would never be in the attention of the influential people. That was a principle that holds true in any situation. For the last couple of days, Barkov sensed great danger from Chambord. In his eyes, this king of Chambord was an unparalleled genius. For the last while, he had been studying the law of the 12 tables that was created by the king of Chambord and got him the nickname, Saint King. In the beginning, Barkov treated it like a joke, nothing serious at all. However, the more he studied it, the more stunned he was. In the end, he really felt like it was a set of laws that could be named as Saint Laws. Also, the magic traffic lights, strange traffic laws, magic central water system and sewer system, magic teleportation system, reverse whale battleship, the organization of the 6 departments, and a thriving university. All of these were completely different compared to the Zenit Empire, giving Barkov a chill to his bones. He felt like the Chambord was an empire that was within the Zenit Empire, and it was trying to recreate the ancient magic civilization from the mythical era. To be honest, after seeing and hearing everything that was going on at Chambord, Barkov even started to admire the king of Chambord subconsciously. Compared with the arrogant warriors from the Iron Blood Legion, Barkov had been worrying about the future. He couldn't figure out why the crown prince, who was intelligent and rational, would want to be hostile toward the king of Chambord. Why can't I figure out the grudge between them? If the crown prince is friendly toward Chambord and used elder-princess relationship, he could pull Chambord to his side. By then, he would become the next emperor without a doubt. Why can't he see this? What is going on? Barkov fell into a state of deep thoughts. At the same time, many different people in various locations in the Chambord city were shocked. Faye's rise attracted a lot of people's attention. Therefore, even the forces in the nearby empires sent people into the Chambord city to monitor what was going on in this remote small city that was insignificant less than a year ago. Of course, on top of monitoring the situation, they all had different goals and objectives. The breathtaking phenomenon that was taking place instantly pulled their attention. Someone is advancing into the realm of moon class? Who is it? The king of Chambord sure is a genius. In less than a year, he went from a weak, useless king to a moon class elite. Quick! Investigate. Who is going through this nature's challenge? Other idiots might not know, but we already got the information. The king of Chambord already advanced into moon class and is now at an unimaginable level. When this king was break through the threshold at Dual Flag City, the phenomenon was huge. However, these idiots don't believe that it was the king of Chambord who caused that. God! In such a short time, another moon class elite is appearing in Chambord. Who is it? This aura? He isn't the king of Chambord. Lightning elemental warrior energy. Could it be that former number 1 warrior of Chambord? Lampard? This can't be right. He was only a low-tier 9-star warrior half a month ago. How can he obtain several breakthroughs in such a short time? Someone go and investigate. Many people had the same reaction in different places. The wind and clouds were transforming, and the lightning bolts were flashing. As the dark clouds covered the sky above this ancient city, the sea of lightning landed within the castle. At the same time, the citizens of Chambord who received the news ahead of time and were waiting in their homes got nervous as they stared at the dancing lightning bolts in the sky. They all knew that Mr. Lampard was advancing toward a higher realm, and they all placed their hands together and prayed for this most loyal guardian of the kingdom. Tens of thousands of people were praying for Lampard at the same time. On the plaza, Lampard going through nature's challenge and becoming a moon-class elite was a part of Faye's plan. There was one objective that the king wanted to achieve with this. He wanted to lightly reveal some of Chambord's strength to shock the people who were plotting against the kingdom. This would save him a lot of headache in the future. This was a show meant for the people who were spying on Chambord in the dark. He wanted them to know that they were no match for Chambord. The flashy lightning bolts blurred the viewer's vision, and these lightning bolts fell from the sky like water droplets in a heavy storm. It felt endless. Fortunately, protective array formations were placed around the plaza, and most of the powers of the lightning bolts were blocked off when they dispersed into the area. Otherwise, the buildings in the city would be severely damaged. At the moment, all the thousands of elites of Chambord were holding onto their breaths as they watched nervously. According to the passage of time, a regular Nature's Challenge should be ending by now. However, Lampard's Nature's Challenge was different. The lightning bolts were dropping down non-stop, and they were getting thicker and more powerful. It felt like the most crucial moment of this process wasn't even here yet. Lion-like roars sounded from the sea of lightning on the plaza, and Lampard's aura was growing stronger and stronger. Faye stood on the throne of chaos and observed. His sharp vision passed through the layers of lightning and saw Lampard standing in the center. This former number 1 warrior of Chambord was standing straight like an unyielding spear, and he was calmly directing the lightning energy into his body. As his body was being tempered, his aura and power were slowly transforming. The most crucial moment is here. I didn't expect Uncle Lampard to have so much accumulation. His Nature's Challenge is far more intense compared to others. Faye gradually calmed down. However, sudden changes occurred at this moment. Whoosh! A dash of silver sword energy flew toward Lampard, while it hid among the flashy lightning bolts that were striking toward him. He. A little affiliated kingdom like Chambord doesn't need another Moon-class elite. You better die. A hoarse yet high-pitched laughter sounded, and a sharp murderous spirit also appeared. While a master was going through Nature's Challenge, his or her strength and mind would be 100% focused on fighting against the natural elements. They couldn't spare any energy to other matters. If they were disturbed, the huge amount of natural elements would lash out on them and instantly kill them. The fact that someone chose to sneak attack at this moment spoke to their viciousness. The most powerful Saint Seiyas in the area got anxious, and they instantly screamed out. Faye's expression also changed. As his mind changed, he and the Throne of Chaos both disappeared. In the next split second, he appeared in front of that silver sword energy and grasped it, instantly obliterating the sword energy that could kill a new moon elite as if it was a dash of smoke. Ha! A surprised gasp sounded. It seemed like this person was shocked that the king of Chambord could easily break his strike. Whoosh! 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 Almost at the same time, 3 silver sword energies that were more powerful appeared in 3 different locations and shot toward Lampard at 3 different angles. The mysterious enemy was mighty, and this person was determined to kill Lampard. The danger was here. The situation was very dangerous. However, as if he already predicted this, Faye's expression didn't even change. The Throne of Chaos flashed continuously, and all kinds of afterimages appeared. As if 3 Faye appeared at the same time, 3 figures moved and easily obliterated the 3 sword energies that were at 3 different locations. I didn't expect to see such as a master in a little level 1 affiliated kingdom. Ha ha ha. The voice that sounded a moment ago suddenly appeared at a different place. Since this is the case, I will go easy on you. You won't be so lucky next time. The voice moved around, and its pitch changed several times. Soon, that voice died down. The sneak attacker was going away. At this moment, Faye raised his brows and sneered. I have to give you a big gift in return to be polite. Otherwise, people will say that I'm not hospitable. Before he finished, he lightly clenched his hand into a fist. A holy, silver hand that was about half a meter in each dimension appeared a meter away from Faye. This hand made from pure energy looked very detailed. The small wrinkles and blood vessels could even be seen. As Faye clenched his hand, this hand made of energy also tightened. The 5 fingers slowly curled and formed a fist, and the 5 fingers also left a series of afterimages in the air, making the energy fist look like a blossoming holy lotus. All of this only took a split second. Then, lights dashed out of Faye's eyes as he stared at one location in front of him and punched out. The lotus-like fist mark lightly shivered before disappearing from where it was. Boom! It dashed toward the place that Faye was staring at, and it was so fast that human eyes couldn't capture it. A. Puff! A muffled groan sounded, and a few drops of blood dripped down from the sky mysteriously. Then, like a mirror that was shattered and then fixed, the space that got struck by Faye's fist mark cracked open before restoring itself in the next moment. In that process, a black figure dropped out of that crack. This person looked at Faye with a resentful and shocked expression before disappearing again. Faye looked at the sky and didn't chase. This person is able to handle my invincible Emperor Fist. He must be at level 1 or level 2 of low-tier full moon realm. Which force does this person belong to? Damn, we really got a big fish. As Faye thought about that, he glanced around with his sharp eyes. The various powerful auras that only moon-class elites could sense all backed off at this instant. After seeing how mighty Faye was, the masters hiding in the surroundings all left. They didn't want to cause a misunderstanding. Boom! 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 Now, the final strike in Nature's challenge was about to arrive. The many silver lightning bolts in the sky suddenly merged into one, as if something pulled them together, and all of them turned into a vague human-shaped lightning energy. With a devastating pressure, it paused in the sky for a second before striking down toward Lampard, who was in the center of the plaza. This strike looked like the god of lightning, and it was the last test that nature had for this former number 1 warrior of Chambord. All the Chambordians held their breaths at this moment. They felt like their hearts were in their throats. Ha 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 ha! Final strike? Great. Black lightning. Fangs of the lion. Lightning speed strike. As his long red hair fluttered in the crazy wind, Lampard laughed bravely like a deity. He pulled out the level 8 combat weapon, Black Lightning. That was stabbed in the ground, and his aura started to grow and increase in power again rapidly. Gradually, a huge lion totem with burning golden flames around it could be seen behind him. Lampard used his sword and cast his ultimate technique, Lightning Speed Fist. Roar! 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 Instantly, the roars of the golden lion resonated in the sky. As Lampard struck upward at the sky, all the lightning energy around him rotated and turned into a lion's fang. Without fear, Lampard smashed his sword at the human-shaped lightning that was coming down at him. Whoosh! The sharp, air-piercing noise almost torn the eardrums of the people in the area. At the same time, that human-shaped lightning, which represented the last test nature had for Lampard, got obliterated by the fang of the golden lion. After that, there was still a ton of power contained in Lampard's strike. After chopping the human-shaped lightning up, he flew upward into the sky and torn a gigantic hole in the thick clouds. A huge circular hole that was about 20 kilometers in diameter appeared in the dark clouds, and the blue sky could be seen again. Then, the golden sunlight shined through the hole in the cloud and lit up the entire Chambord city. Looking from afar, everywhere else was dark except for Chambord. It looked like the gods were blessing this kingdom. Lampard smashed the Nature's Challenge and successfully entered the Moon-class realm. From now on, Chambord had another strategic-level master. Loud cheers sounded from all sides of the plaza like erupting lava from a volcano, and it resonated in the sky and shattered the rest of the dark clouds. Lampard stood in the center of the plaza quietly, and his aura was climbing up. Level 1 low-tier new moon. Level 2 low-tier new moon. Level 5 low-tier new moon. Level 5 low-tier new moon. Level 3 mid-tier new moon. Under Faye's surprised and delighted gaze, Lampard's strength only gradually slowed down and stabilized around level 5 mid-tier new moon. Directly broke to mid-tier new moon. This is shocking. It looks like the secrets on Uncle Lampard is beyond my estimation, Faye thought. For ordinary masters, if they could stabilize their strength at level 1 low-tier new moon, it was a success. The masters who got to level 3 low-tier new moon after Nature's Challenge would be considered geniuses, and the ones who got to level 5 low-tier new moon were geniuses among the geniuses. The fact that Lampard got to level 5 mid-tier new moon was beyond strange. Also, Lampard's last strike that destroyed the last test in Nature's Challenge and put a gigantic hole in the clouds made a lot of spies sense a chill. They knew that Chambord didn't just get a moon-class elite. This kingdom got a real master. A master with unlimited potential. After the dark clouds disappeared, the clear blue sky looked like the most beautiful sapphire. As the sun climbed higher into the sky, the moist air got warmer and warmer. Loud cheers were still resonated in the area. Soon, every citizen in Chambord learned that Mr. Lampard successfully became a Moon-class elite, and the entire city fell into a state of excitement and happiness. Everyone knew that strength and power was the key to safety in a chaotic time. What? It was someone else who became a Moon-class elite. Barkov, who was waiting for information in front of the hotel, relaxed after he learned the news. Then, he suddenly realized the implication of that, and he went into his room and placed several documents onto the table. After searching around, he quickly located the intelligence report on Lampard. Frank Lampard, 37 years old, water elemental and lightning elemental warrior, peak 8-star strength, quiet and reserved, history and origin, unknown. The word unknown gave Barkov chills. Even the Imperial military headquarters couldn't figure out this man's history. He has been in Chambord for many years, so it should be easy to track his history. Why is it unknown? Could it be that this man's background is too extraordinary? Damn it! Just what kinds of people are around the king of Chambord? Barkov was getting anxious. No, wait! He suddenly realized something that he overlooked. After days of investigation, it is agreed that the king of Chambord is the #1 master at Chambord. That means this king's strength is even beyond Lampard. It means that the king of Chambord is already at Moon class. But Barkov shivered as he continued thinking. But why on the intelligence report Crown Prince His Highness gave me? Why is 9-star the most optimistic estimate? Crown Prince His Highness didn't know? Impossible. Why didn't he tell me? Sweat slid off Barkov's forehead like raindrops, and he didn't even notice that the intelligence report fell off his hands. While Barkov was in fear, many people were also reacting to this news as well. What? The person who advanced isn't the king of Chambord. Ha ha ha. Like I thought. It is Frank Lampard. Damn. Now, Chambord has 2 Moon-class elites when including the king himself. With this power, Chambord could break away from Zenith and establish its own empire. Who could stop Chambord from doing whatever it wants now in Zenith? Quickly pass this information back to our family leader. We big family need to forget about our resent toward Chambord and give up on seeking revenge. We shouldn't try to battle with the king of Chambord. 2 moons in 1 kingdom. Chambord is on the rise. We heard that the king of Chambord is getting married in 13 days. Pass this information to our lord. We can prepare gifts ahead of time. If we want to get on the good side of Chambord, we need to give up on something. In this case, we need to show our stance before everyone else. If we do it late, it would be meaningless. Ha ha ha. Great. The powerful Chambord is like an awkward, poisonous thorn to the Zenith Empire. Hee hee. How could the royal family of Zenith let someone else take over a big region of their territory? A civil war is about to break out in Zenith. If we just help the king of Chambord develop his ambition, the Zenith Empire will fall into chaos. Then, our Spartax Empire could be revived. Send someone back to Eindhoven immediately. Report to the general. Tell her that a Moon-class elite is born in Chambord. Tell her every single detail and ask her to give us further instructions. The spies and agents of various forces quickly made their calculations and decided on what to do after experiencing the shock. A well-hidden secret room in a basement at the Chambord city. Why didn't you guys move with me? Why didn't you? Humph. You are all selfish and want me to make a fool out of myself. Don't you know the consequences of your actions? How could you let Chambord get a new Moon-class elite? If Master knows about this, how could we withstand his anger? There was a deep fist mark on this man's right shoulder, and it looked terrifying. His entire right shoulder almost got destroyed, and that silver energy was still dancing on that wound, stopping it from healing. This was the mysterious person who tried to kill Lampard and got injured by Faye instead. Humph! Desav, you ignored Master's order and tried to sneak attack alone to get the credit. You already made the king of Chambord aware, and it would be harder to execute our plan now. How do you still have the face to blame us? On top of that, you already experienced the King of Chambord's strength firsthand. Even if we all attack him together, we couldn't do anything to him. Instead, we would alert him more, get injured, and ruin Master's plan. You. Excuses. All excuses. Reincarnation, doesn't matter what you say. It couldn't deny the fact that you are a coward who doesn't dare to face the King of Chambord. Humph. That is better than being a dumb, reckless fool like you. You? All right, stop arguing, you too. Another deep and stern voice sounded. Reincarnation is right. This King of Chambord is too terrifying. Even if we team up as four, we can't defeat him. The increase in his strength is monstrous. We should move in secret and do what the Master planned. When Master comes here, everything will be taken care of. However, Desav, what you did today isn't useless. At least we now know how powerful the King of Chambord really is, as well as the relative strengths of the other masters in Chambord. Except for the King of Chambord and that person who just advanced today, no one else could pose a threat to us. Remember, we have to be careful in the next few days. If there are no urgent matters, don't go out. The people below us could execute the rest of the plans. Remember, we couldn't attract the King of Chambord's attention. Silver magic runes were engraved onto the walls, and this secret room concealed their auras and sensations. These four mysterious masters continued their discussion and talked about their schemes, and their voices slowly quieted down. Chambord City, Tiananmen Square, more and more citizens of Chambord rushed out of their homes and ran toward the plaza after the lightning bolts and the thick dark clouds were gone. The defensive magic arrays around the square were put away, and the bylaw enforcement officers who were locking this place down moved so that the joyous and cheerful citizens could get into the plaza. On this continent that was ruled by the law of the jungle, the birth of a moon-class elite was significant to any kingdom or empire. Any kinds of celebration couldn't be overboard. The cheers continued, and Lampard was treated like a legendary hero. Faye stood on the throne of chaos and lowered it onto the giant stone pillar in the center of the plaza. As he glanced around the excited crowd, he felt very proud. After a while, he waved his hand. All the cheering stopped, and tens of thousands of heated gazes focused on him. Everyone was waiting for him to say something. Today is a day that will be recorded onto the history book of Chambord. Today we got a powerful guardian. Today we got the strength to fight back the bullies. Today, we obtained the most powerful warriors in the history of Chambord. Faye's voice quickly got drowned in the thunder-like applauses and cheers. After a while, when the cheering finally died down a little, Faye continued, Today, as the King of Chambord, I have something important to announce to all the citizens of Chambord. He took out a Divi crystal from his storage space, and he injected a little bit of magic energy into it. Dashes of colorful lights were emitted from the crystal, and it projected out a giant movie-like video in the sky. It was a scene that many Chambordians were familiar with. It showed the numerous mountains and forests behind Chambord. However, the view of such scenery from the sky was quite novel to them. Under Faye's control, the video changed. There were 5 tall and majestic mountains that pierced into the clouds, and it looked like they were situated on the 5 points of a pentagram. There were giant rocks, ancient trees, morning mists, and white clouds. It looked like a paradise in heaven. There were numerous mountains connected to the back mountain of Chambord, and it was heard that many demon beasts resided in there. In addition, the terrains were rough and there were no paths into it. Therefore, even Chambordians who had lived in this place for generations would rarely go in there. To Chambordians, it was an explored land of mystery. After seeing this, a lot of people got curious. Does the king want to conquer this terrifying and mysterious back garden of Chambord? They thought. I have named these 5 mountains 5 Sword Sky Mountains. From now on, they would be the residences of the royal family of Chambord. As the king, I have decided to move the king's palace into the 5 Sword Sky Mountains, and I would be trying to cultivate and progress on the path of power. Faye paused for a second when he saw the surprised and sad expressions on his people's faces. Then, he continued, after a year of development, the 6 departments are getting more and more efficient, and the law of the 12 tables are refined. Everything is well under control. Mr. Bast and Mr. Brooke are caring and just, and the officials in the 6 departments are elites elected by the people. All the administrative and military duties are well delegated and organized. And I, the king, doesn't need to get involved for the citizens to live great lives. At this point, a lot of people understood the situation. On the Azeroth continent, it wasn't uncommon that kings and emperors weren't involved in the management of their kingdoms and empires. After all, this world was ruled by power, and the nobles and royals had a lot more resources and could obtain great warrior energy and magic energy cultivation techniques. Therefore, a lot of rulers and upper-class people were focused on cultivation and lived in seclusion, and all the managing of their lands were delegated to loyal and capable ministers. Although all the citizens of Chambord knew the logic behind it, a lot of them felt like they would miss King Alexander dearly. Among them, high-level officials such as Pierce, Drogba, Oleg, Bast, Brooke, and Old Ariang, as well as students in the civil and military academy were all shocked, and their expressions changed. They didn't expect the king to make such a decision right here and right now. Behind them, the other citizens also chattered and murmured amongst themselves. However, since the king had an absolute prestige and was well respected, no one objected his decision even though it was abrupt. After the initial surprise, people started to feel like Faye's decision was both logical and reasonable in the current situation. After a year of planning and pivoting, Faye had turned Chambord, a remote little level 6 kingdom that was weak and poor, into a level 1 affiliated kingdom that was prosperous, organized, and powerful. Without exaggeration, Chambord was comparable to level 1 empires on the continent in terms of combat abilities. If the size of its territories and population increased, Chambord could easily break away from Zenith and become its own empire. In Faye's eyes, the Chambord kingdom was like a child who learned how to walk on its own under his supervision. Although it was staggering and might fall sometimes, it no longer required him to support it along the way. Therefore, he felt like this was the perfect opportunity for him to let go and become a completely hands-off ruler. Living in seclusion and becoming a hermit didn't mean that he was cutting off all connection with Chambord. On the contrary, Faye was still the king of the kingdom, and his words would be taken as commands. However, since Faye was not crazy over control and didn't like complicated administrative and military tasks, he wanted to use this opportunity to free himself from all the small matters so that he could focus on cultivating and increasing his strength. Living on the 5-Sword Sky Mountains, monitoring the Chambord city, observing the Zenith Empire, and dominating over a region on the Azeroth continent. It was the life that Faye wanted to live. He could watch the clouds around the mountains in the morning, sleep on the thighs of beauties when he was drunk, and control the region when he was awake. That was his ultimate dream. Faye glanced around and saw the expressions of the people in the area. He was quite reassured. He then shifted the Divi crystal in his hand, and the image in the sky turned from the 5-Sword Sky Mountains to 12 mountains that were situated neatly between 5-Sword Sky Mountains and Chambord City. They were a bit shorter compared to the 5-Sword Sky Mountains, but they still pierced into the clouds. Although these 12 mountains weren't as majestic as the 5-Sword Sky Mountains, they were impressive nonetheless. It looked like they were connected to the sky, and they were mystic and luring. These 12 sword mountains will be the residences of the most powerful 12 gold saints. I will place 12 gold saint palaces on them, and they will be protecting the 5-Sword Sky Mountains as well as the Chambord city. The 12 gold saints will live and train on these 12 sword mountains, and they will help me monitor the kingdom, guard the citizens, and enjoy supreme honor. As soon as Faye finished speaking, a phenomenon occurred. The blue sky was clear, and all the lights of the stars were covered by the bright sun. It was impossible to see them. However, at this moment when Faye stopped speaking, the stars shone brightly in the sky, and their mystic power suppressed the sunshine. The stars shone one after another, and they formed the 12 zodiac constellations: Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. It felt like a god was drawing in the sky. These mystic images of the constellations appeared in the sky because of His Majesty's words. Are these 12 images of the constellations the totems of the 12 gold saints? This, the power of the stars. So shocking. Everyone on and around the plaza was stunned by what they saw. The stars that created the 12 zodiac constellations appeared in the sky and formed mystic and incredible images because of the king's speech. What they were seeing was a miracle. That was undeniable. Even Faye was surprised by what was going on. When he was speaking, he didn't expect that something like this was going to happen. In the next second, Faye suddenly realized that this miracle was probably due to one of his 3 miraculous skills, a given. When he was giving people like Lampard and Drogba their Star Saint sets, similar incidents happened where the Star Saint sets communicated with the stars in the sky. This miraculous process took place for a minute. After that, the stars dimmed down, and the sky returned to normal. Faye stopped thinking and glanced at the Saint Seiya's as well as the bylaw enforcement officers. In the end, his eyes landed on Lampard. I know that you all want to become Moon-class elites. Only the Moon-class elites are qualified to become guardians who could reside in the 12 golden Saint Palaces. Therefore, if you want to become the most powerful Saint Seiya's in the kingdom, you need to work harder and show me your effort. Today, Uncle Lampard took the first step forward. From now on, Uncle Lampard, you will be the guardian of Gold Leo Mountain. As Faye spoke, the effect of given appeared again. The dimmed stars in the sky brightened up. This time, only the stars that made up the Leo constellation shone. The lights of the 96 stars traveled down the sky, accelerated, and landed on one of the 12 sword mountains behind the Chambord city. Then, a mystic beam of light appeared on this mountain and shot back into the sky. Everyone was stunned again. At the same time, Lampard suddenly felt a mysterious power coming from that mountain. He felt like he was connected to the mountain by blood, and it was calling him. "It is my great honor, your majesty." Lampard single-kneeled and swore. Then, he disappeared from the plaza and dashed toward the Gold Leo Mountain like a lightning bolt. The entire city was stunned. King's Palace. After returning from the plaza, Faye wandered around this palace that was about to retire. The royal family of Chambord had been living here for generations. Alexander's father, old Alexander, and the previous kings all left marks on this palace, such as the magic portraits of all the kings of Chambord in history. Although they weren't precious, they were valuable items to the royal family of Chambord. Although Faye was from another world, this body of his contained the blood of the royals of Chambord. In addition, Faye lived here for a while and he got somewhat emotionally attached to some items. Therefore, even though the Sky Castle contained everything he would ever need, Faye decided to take the items that were significant to the royal family of Chambord with him. As Faye walked around, he placed all the items that he wanted to take with him into his storage ring. By borrowing the idea of corporate offices from his previous life, this palace, which was the biggest in Chambord City, was going to become the headquarters of the 6 departments and offices of all ministers. From now on, all the hundreds of officials would be coming to this place to work and manage all the things that were happening in the Chambord kingdom. After Faye walked to every single corner in the king's palace, he thought about it and placed all the decors and small items that Angela liked into his storage ring. When all that was done, Faye didn't hurry up and leave. He went to the side palace and started to design the wedding dresses that both Angela and Elena were going to wear according to his memory. Perhaps it was because Faye was a spatial traveler. He felt like modern wedding dresses and diamond rings were essential parts of a perfect wedding. Faye had been thinking about this for a while now, and he already got some ideas. For Angela, who was sweet and gentle, a long trailing white princess wedding dress would fit her perfectly. For Elena, who was valiant and cold, Faye wanted to design her a rose tight-fit Cheongsam-style wedding dress. For Faye, who was good at sketching in his previous life, it wasn't too hard to complete the designs and create the blueprints. After 3 hours, Faye finally finished everything and was happy with the outcomes. Then, Torres brought the 2 stacks of design blueprints to the best tailor in the city, Auntie Mary. This Auntie Mary had a unique backstory of her own. She was only an ordinary tailor who lived in a poor neighborhood. Even though she was talented in this field, she wasn't able to do anything with it. After Faye came to this world, he came up with unique and strange designs that this world had never seen before. and Angela somehow got to know this tailor and asked her to handle and make the clothes that Faye came up with. This little opportunity sparked Auntie Mary's talent. When the king tried to get everyone in Chambord City to dress properly, Auntie Mary, who was the first tailor that created these clothes, earned a lot of money. Then, she started to get apprentices and opened her own big shop. Now, she was recognized as one of the best tailors at Chambord City, and a lot of people were proud that they were able to wear clothes that were made by Auntie Mary. Since the king was about to get married, Auntie Mary's shop naturally became the producer of the uniquely designed wedding outfits. After designing the wedding dresses, Faye spent another 3 hours on drawing up 3 rings that resembled traditional Chinese dragon and phoenix and had perfect magic gems inlaid in them. Although it might seem like a waste of time to other people, it was significant to Faye. Then, Faye went to the City of Heroes and used the portal on the 66th floor to get to that mysterious space. He gave the blueprints to blacksmith Charcy and asked her to create them. When Faye arrived at that mysterious space, the crazy rainstorm and the earthly flames already disappeared, and everything went back to normal. The blacksmiths reconstructed the temporary tents and furnaces, and they went back to forging the required items for the renovation project. Although they had been working here for about a year now, the demon's remains that made up the mountain of white bones didn't decrease in numbers by that much. On the other hand, more than half of the stone pillars that contained black stone essences were used. The blacksmiths were already trying to find another substitute material. Since Faye already completed the quest that asked him to find the magical hammer in the nightmare mode, Chambord now had 2 hammers that could forge the demon's remains. The hammer that Faye retrieved from the nightmare mode was much more powerful, and Charcy was proficient enough to handle the second hammer. Therefore, the first hammer was now in the hands of the best blacksmith in Chambord, Samuel. Wow! So pretty! What animals are these? They look so cool. Faye's design of the rings instantly attracted Charcy. After he talked with Charcy a little and made sure that she knew what he wanted, Faye left this place. Before he left, he turned to look at the mountain of white bones once again. He thought about the altar and portal that led to the last ancestral place of the dwarfs, and he wondered if he should find an opportunity to close that portal. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if someone found that portal and got teleported to the secret place of the dwarfs. However, on the second thought, the demon's remains were very tough, and ordinary people wouldn't be able to break them and create a path to the altar and the portal. He was in no hurry to close that portal right now, so he decided to do it another time. When he got back to the king's palace, Torres already returned from his small mission. According to Faye's request, people such as the 12 maids, the few chiefs, the cleaning crew, Pierce, Drogba, Robin, Czech, Inzaghi, other 4 orphans Faye saved, and a few other masters of Chambord had been summoned to the king's palace. Faye didn't offer much explanation. As his pair of silver sword energy wings appeared on his back, a vast amount of energy dispersed into the area and formed a gigantic silver energy sphere. It enveloped everyone and dashed into the sky. The 3 little dragons, Thug, Chick, and Hooligan, followed Faye in the sky tightly. Blackie, which was on the ground, howled and turned into a dash of black lightning, rushing toward the back of Chambord City. The steep hills and the wide rivers couldn't block this giant mutated black beast, and it was able to catch up with Faye and the group. The distance, about 10 kilometers, was instantly traveled. When the group passed through the invisible energy sphere and appeared right above the sky castle, everyone except Faye was stunned. This? Am I dreaming? Am I hallucinating? When did such a giant city appear in the back mountains? This must be an illusion array. A magic array is at work. Pierce, pinch me? Drogba's mouth opened wide, and he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Pierce was shocked, so he instantly pinched Drogba's thigh forcefully. Ouch! Oh my god! It hurts. I shouldn't be dreaming. Hey bro, why are you so vicious with your pinch? Drogba inhaled as he stared at Pierce. Pierce shrugged and replied, You asked me to. Natural elements. There are abundant natural elements. There are at least 10 times the elements, and cultivating either warrior energy or magic energy in here will be more efficient. I'm confident that I will break the threshold of peak 9-star and become a moon-class elite in less than 1 year. Torres looked down at the legendary city and instantly thought about improving his strength. After hearing the king announce the 12 gold Saint palaces at the plaza, this blonde young man's ambition was ignited. After the initial shock, people like Robin and Inzaghi all realized the benefit of training in this place. Although the maids and the chiefs didn't have any warrior energy or magic energy, they were still surprised by what they saw. They felt like they were no longer in the mortal world. They felt like they were in heaven and were about to live beside gods. Chirp, chirp, chirp. The 3 young dragons that followed Faye to this place let out a series of cheerful cries. They flew around the sky castle quickly, expressing their excitement. It was clear that they were delighted with their new home. I accidentally discovered these ancient structures a few days ago. There is a layer of mystic energy sphere protecting this place, and it is hard to locate. This castle is well protected, well kept, and has abundant natural elements. It is a perfect city, and it will be the home of the royal family of Chambord from now on. You guys could cultivate in this place and try to reach moon class. Once you do, you will get one of the 12 gold Saint palaces on the Sword Mountains. Faye introduced everyone to the Sky Castle briefly as they stood in the air. Although it was a little forced and a little unreasonable, no one would question and doubt the king's words. After thinking about the fact that they could cultivate in this magical city, all the masters were excited. Since they saw the hope of getting to moon class in a short time, they all wanted to find a place of their own and start training. Bark! Bark! At this moment, the loud howls of Blackace sounded from afar, and even the clouds in the sky were shattered. From the noise, it seemed like this beast was approaching the Sky Castle rapidly. Oh, I forgot that Blackie couldn't fly and couldn't get up these mountains. As Faye was about to land and let the people in the energy sphere get to the ground before getting Blackie from the bottom of the mountains, a mystic aura appeared at the foot of the mountains. Huh? What is going on? This aura? It is not Blackie. Could it? Faye's face changed color. It was heard that all types of mysterious demon beasts resided in the back mountains of Chambord, including high-level and even supreme king-level demon beasts. Those creatures had a strong sense of territories, and they would attack anything that entered their zones mercilessly. Could it be that Blackie got attacked by a powerful demon beast on its way here? As Faye was about to make a move, the special aura at the foot of the mountains changed again. The strength of the aura increased rapidly and continuously. The speed of the elevation was similar to cultivators after they broke through a threshold. It was fast like a rocket. To Faye, this aura was getting more and more familiar. Gradually, a surprised and a confused expression appeared on the king's face. Huh? Blackie? It achieved a breakthrough and underwent another mutation. There was an unlimited number of mountains behind Chambord, and they were of various sizes and steepness. Like a dash of black lightning, Blackie was dashing between them. Its 4 strong legs were as tough as iron. As it exerted forces through them, the hard rocks under its paws were crushed, and its body was jetted into the air as if the gravity was cancelled. Every time it jumped into the air, it would move over more than 100 meters, and most of the steep hills, deep valleys, giant rocks, and ancient trees were dodged by it. Blackie hadn't enjoyed running around this freely in a long time. It felt like it was a gust of strong wind, blowing through the woods and the mountains. The beginning of Blackie's vague memory started in these deserted mountains. It lost its parents right after it was born, and it had no abilities to survive on its own. It was cold and hungry all the time. Just as it was about to die, Angela, the future queen of Chambord, came up the mountains and tried to find herbs for King Alexander, and they encountered each other. It was this beautiful and kind girl who saved Blackie. Even though Blackie wasn't cute and wasn't a rare breed, this pure girl still saved it and brought it back to the king's palace of Chambord. From that moment on, it no longer needed to worry about getting fed. During that period of time, Blackie was no different to other ordinary dogs. It lived a simple, dumb, yet happy life, until one day, its male master, Alexander, suddenly became another person. He fed it a mysterious green potion, and it fell unconscious. After a while of terrifying pain and half a month of sleep, it was reborn. From that moment on, Blackie started to have intelligence, a level of intelligence that wasn't inferior to humans. Although it wasn't capable of speaking, It was getting smarter and smarter by the day. It began able to understand the human language, and it comprehended a lot of things that it wasn't capable of before. As time passed by, its strength got stronger and stronger due to the mutation, and it started to like its male master just as much as it liked its female master. It carried its male master to battle and charged through tens of thousands of enemies. After getting affected by its male master's domineering aura, it started to enjoy its life where it was potentially able to shatter mountains and scare gods with its roars alone. Then, after it took in 3 dragons as its henchmen, Blacky's biggest wish was to obtain a pair of wings that would allow it to fly freely in the sky, just like the dragons. The dog wanted a pair of wings? It was beyond impossible. However, Blacky didn't give up. It felt like it could do it. Under the nurturing of its somewhat creative male master, even Blacky itself didn't know how it was going to evolve. The bulges on its back were getting hotter every day, and it felt like a pair of bones was growing out of its spine. It was able to sense what was going on inside its body clearly. At this moment, Blacky looked up at the sky. It saw Thug, Chick, Hooligan, and its male master, who was like a god in its mind. Flying freely in the sky, Blacky exerted force through its 4 legs and created huge cracks on the ground, and it started to leap forward crazily. The surroundings passed by him rapidly like phantoms, and every time it leaped into the air and extended its legs, it would experience a brief moment of excitement as it felt like it was flying. Streaks of hot energy dashed around its body unstoppably. As it stared at the figures in the sky, Blacky had never wanted to fly this bad. Finally, a huge valley that was more than 400 meters wide appeared before it. It was a distance that Blacky couldn't jump over. Even though that was the case, Blacky didn't hesitate for one bit. Instead of slowing down, it sped up even more. As it roared, exerted force through its legs, and shattered the rocks under its paws, its body shot into the sky like an eagle. The wind blew by its body. Its upward momentum and the gravity were 2 forces in different directions, and they battled with each other. In the end, gravity took the upper hand, and Blacky started to fall into the valley. If its body smashed into the deep valley, its bones would be cracked into bits, and it would die instantly. At this moment, it wasn't anxious at all for some reason. Instead, it felt a wave of anger that was hard to suppress. It opened its mouth and howled with all it got. Bark, bark, roar, 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 roar. The barking of a dog turned into the roaring of an unknown beast. It was the first time that Blacky let out this type of sound that contained a ton of pressure, and a thick smell of sulfur appeared around it. When it opened its mouth again, orange flames were spat out. At that moment, the streaks of hot energy shot through its body like electricity and swept through all the bones in its body. Like a volcano that finally erupted after many years of accumulation, the energy rushed toward the 2 bulges on its back that had been there for about half a year now. Blacky sensed an intense pain as if its heart was pierced through, and it felt like something finally broke through the cocoon. Then, Blacky completely broke free from the gravity that had been pulling it down for all its life, and it flew upward into the sky. A huge pair of wings extended out of the bulges on its back. This pair of wings was black, shiny, and full of scales. The wing bones were distinct, and their tips were sharp like black swords that had been forged for hundreds of times. The wingspan was longer than 30 meters. In addition, the wings had a metal glare to them. They looked like rows and layers of black swords stacked together. There were streaks of innate magic pathings on them. When Blacky fluttered its wings, psi and wind elemental energy blades would appear under the wings, creating an enormous amount of thrust force and lifting its mountain-like body into the air. As Blacky turned its head and spat out a dash of orange flame at a huge piece of rock, that rock turned into lava and flowed into the river in the valley. Whoosh! Then, it fluttered its wings, and its body dashed into the sky. Freedom! Flight! As soon as Faye landed with everyone, he looked up and saw a huge black mystic beast flying toward him. It is Blacky. It looks like it finally broke through the limitation of its genetics. It has a pair of wings and could spit fire. It looks like a dragon. Haha, it went from an ordinary dog to this. This could be counted as a carp jumping over the dragon gate. After taking this step, its future is now truly limitless. Faye could clearly tell that Black's strength was now equivalent to a peak 9-star warrior. He was confident that this beast would break through again and march into Moon class very soon. It would become a supreme king-level demon beast in no time. Hee, my dog looks like a dragon, but my 3 little dragons stick out their tongues and wriggle their tails like dogs. Damn, I must be a failure of a master. Faye thought to himself joyously as he heard the howls of the 3 dragons as well as Blackie as they flew freely in the sky. Once these 4 beasts matured, the amount of shock they could bring to the enemies would be more than tens of thousands of elite soldiers. They would become the godly guardian beasts of the kingdom, and all the enemies of Chambord would get a taste of their fangs.